If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
This has been another episode sponsored by Online Horse College. If you haven't had a look at the wide variety of equine-specific accredited courses, then go to onlinehorsecollege.com and I'll see you over there. Our conversation at Horse Chats today has been brought to you by Equitana. Equitana is now celebrating 20 years of bringing Australian horse lovers everything they love, including equine entertainment, exhibition and competition. So join us on the 15th to the 18th of November in the heart of Melbourne to witness a packed program, including the main event, full flight, dressage freestyle, and all-star The Way of the Horse, as well as an Australian show jumping record attempt, which has been held for almost 39 years, and the best equine retail therapy with more shops than Melbourne Central at equitana.com.au. Now, today on Horse Chats, our guest is a repeat guest. It's Tania Harding, and Tania's been on before. If you'd like to go back and find out a bit more about her, just go to horsechats.com, search for Tania Harding, that's Tania, or just search for Tania or search for Harding and you'll be able to find her. Now, Tania, how are you today?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Glenys. Thanks for having us back on.
Oh, that's okay.
Always a pleasure.
No worries, and we love having you back as well. Now, Tania, earlier on today, you were telling me about a balloon and you were sort of giving a bit of a metaphor of blowing up a balloon and a horse and their challenging behaviour. But what you're talking about today, 10 signs that your horse really isn't coping with their environment. You tell us a little bit more about why you chose that particular subject.
Yeah, look, it was something that was sort of coming up as a repetitive observation, point discussion that was coming up at clinics. And it was sort of identifying just when reading your horse's body language, whether it be you're inspecting a horse for sale, whether it was going to suit you, whether you're attending a lesson at a venue, attending a clinic in like a group situation where the horse wasn't as familiar, or going to a competition. And the sort of sign of, I don't know quite what went wrong, but all of a sudden he just exploded or he just lost the plot. And so I think, well, the horses generally don't just lose the plot. They give you signs. Some of them are subtle signs and some of them are more blatant. So I sort of use a bit of a metaphor with the balloon. And if the balloon is completely deflated, the ride has no energy and it's quite dull. And it's good to put some air into it and have it, but it's manageable. It's well within the limits, and the ride is very enjoyable. Once the horse starts to feel uncomfortable, he sort of expands and puts more air into it, and there's a tension there, and it can be overinflated. And it's generally at this stage you see people around you are becoming a bit more nervous about the behaviour of your horse, how it's interfering with theirs, your intensity. If the balloon bursts, then we have that horse that's out of control. So what we're trying to do is realise when the balloon is starting to get overexpanded and see if we can actually deflate it and get the horse to do that for you, or you've got some strategies involved to actually do it. But we're sort of just at the beginning of identifying some signs that this is what's happening to you. He doesn't wait to just explode. He's actually trying to tell you some things.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yep. So today we've got those signs, and I think those signs are really important. And I think you've said before that, every horse is different and they might show up in slightly different ways, but basically they're the signs that they're going to give you. I'm thinking of a balloon, a really flat tyre that's just flat, and then you said you want that little bit of air in them. You want that little bit of a bounce and bit of energy, but you don't want them so bouncy that you're either popping off or else, the whole thing's going to explode. Yeah. So I think that's a good metaphor, that balloon.
You want that energy, but you need the relaxation so that the horse can learn, and that you're still the herd leader and the ride's enjoyable. Once the horse is starting to take over the ride or is not looking towards you at all as the leader of the ride, then the ride becomes less enjoyable and more interesting for you to try and navigate.
Yeah. Yep. What's the first sign then that you look at?
The first one we're going to look at is sort of the more blatant, obvious, and I sort of see it most of all. So I take it as you drive somewhere, or you're seeing a horse that, the first time that's tied up and you're inspecting it. But it's generally whether the horse has control of its feet. So if you're unloading it and you go to tie it up and it can't stand still, like it is moving, it's fidgeting, it's pawing, all those sorts of little signs that it isn't able. You can sort of ask it the stands, and there's various ways of doing this, but if it's not got control of its feet, you know before you start then that this horse isn't as relaxed as what we want. It can be also when you're on, is the horse walking with a flat foot, or is he sort of putting his feet down very quickly across the ground and almost scooting across the ground?
Mm-hmm.
Those look very, oh no, he was good. He was walking along on a loose rein, but he was just walking, and he was walking quite quickly. And I find this off the track, it's like they're led a lot of the places that they go. They have a leader that takes them around the parade ground. They get led off another horse if they go out on the track and they're a bit hard to handle. They get led behind barriers. So the only time that they're not in that sort of situation is when they're galloping.
Yep.
So it's how he uses his feet. If he is unsettled and you unhook and say, right, I want you to work a little bit, or I want you to stand still, are you able to have control of where those feet actually go? So are you able to get him to stand, or are you able to move him across the side? Or if he's moving around in a circle, is he actually working and, bringing that inside hind leg forward and underneath and having to engage his hind and actually use his brain? Or is he just sort of flitting around the circle on you?
Yep.
So
yep.
These are the more obvious, you think, well, that's pretty, and these are the blatant that your horse is there.
Yep.
That you haven't got control. Yeah.
So you've got control of feet for number 1 and control of feet stillness for number 2. Do you want to talk about the difference between the two?
So one is whether you can get the feet to actually go where you want them. And I look at that as 4 individual legs.
Okay.
If I want him to stand or whether I want him to silence. Others, the control of feet is the horse, when it's left to its own devices, able to keep them still.
Mm-hmm.
That it's simple as that.
Yep.
Or can he not there? He's got to move forward, or he's got to come into your space, or does he want to walk off and eat grass somewhere else, or does he want to walk around a circle? Those sorts of things. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're the difference of the two, even though they still come under that sort of same heading for me.
All right, then.
Yeah.
The next thing you've got, number 3, is the position of the pole. And you've got, is it well above the wither? Is it equivalent to the wither, same level, or is it below the wither? Yeah,
this is a really nice indicator for relaxation. Even when the horse is sort of working, a horse naturally is generally pole equal with wither most when they're really relaxed. If you're watching through a field or a paddock and they're just moving through the herd, that's what you'll generally see. When they become alert, the pole goes up, okay, and they're looking in the surroundings. Back to that natural flight and fight. So the horse is naturally a fight animal.
Yep.
So if you're wanting him to work and he has his pole up nice and high, he's not looking to you for instruction at that stage. He's busy assessing his own environment.
Mm.
And if you ask, and I come down to this image, there's a few things that sort of intertie here as we go through the list. It's not necessarily about one on its own, but accumulation of 4 or 5 is starting to tell you are going along to your balloon getting fuller. One on its own can be, worked on and fixed and not be necessarily a big issue. But when you've got 3 or 4 of these coming together, then you're starting to get yourself a scenario that you're getting a horse that isn't going as relaxed as what you need to get learning and to get performance.
Okay.
Yeah, and generally if I ask your horse to go long and lower, his pole comes down below the width. This might be in your warm-up or going along. And I see some people go, I've just got on, I have to warm up, he has to go long and low. He has no intention so they're like, I'm on a loose rein, he will go long and low. And like, no, he won't.
Yep.
And it's just acknowledging it, saying, okay, so at this point he's not there at all. I'm going to have to use a different strategy. rather than just persisting on, and then the horse starts taking a different environment, might become more anxious, might start showing other indications with they're not coping. And then that increases their anxiety as they come in. So I'm generally looking at when I go to get on the horse, the neck should be nice and level. He shouldn't want to walk off. His feet should be nice and under control and stationary. I should be able to get on. I don't need a tight rein contact. Yes, I'll have contact, but not tight or anything like that. And the horse just stands, you feel, you do whatever you need to do to get yourself organised. And when you're ready, the aid goes on and the horse walks off, rather than the horse dictating. So those are sort of general things of when you go on. So if you're at a competition, your horse, these things are installed at home. So if you go to a competition or you're going away to a clinic, somewhere different, and you pull your horse out and you saddle him up, he's a bit fidgety, and then you go to get on and he won't stand still, his neck's a bit tight. Well, there's 3 things that are telling you your horse isn't as he normally is.
Yes.
And he's finding himself in an area. So that's where I'm saying things are sort of coming together.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Now, the next thing you've got here is the breathing, and we often talk about as riders we get nervous, but the horse's breathing, you've got shallow, holding, deep and slow. What are we looking for, and what's the difference there?
Deep and slow. So, a nice, relaxed horse, taking in information, deep and slow is very easy. Hot-blooded horses tend to hold more, are prone to holding and just blocking their ribs. Sometimes it's just that they're working and trying to understand you, but they hold their breath on you. And I find that, the thoroughbreds are more prone to that. And then the shallow is just like for us, when we're in more of a flight mode, so does we have a more heightened reaction, and breathing doesn't become that nice relaxing. So the chemical release that happens encourages the horse to go more into flight mode. So we have worked that the horses, you have to either in place a strategy at home where you can encourage them to come back into breathe. And sometimes that may be just you needing to breathe. Your nervousness or your breathing pattern will go through to your horse. So you're finding yourself nervous about the day, that will automatically go through to your horses. So keeping your breathing on a nice, deep, regular, slow rhythm will help your horse to also do the same as you come in. Yeah. So a couple of things that come into this is also ear movements. So I always like to watch, and it's probably one of my most subtle but definite when I'm riding. I always check if I think the horse is going to lose a bit of concentration, maybe worried about something else, I'll just do a squeeze of the leg or a rein. It's generally the inside the ear that will flick back to the rider. So I don't mind if they're going along and the horse is looking at something has caught its eye. I'm not very sure, but I might just do a squeeze my inside rein. The outside ear can stay on what has their attention, but the inside ear will come back. If that happens, I'm quite happy. I'm quite content with that horse, that although something's caught his attention, he's well aware that I'm still there. I'm still giving him instruction. He can assess that, but keep going as we're going. If both ears have gone forward, I do the squeeze, and both ears stay forward, I know that I've lost that interaction.
Yep.
He's shut me out for the moment. He's looking at something else. I need to remind him, hey, I'm back here on board. You need to listen to me. Yes, you can look at that for a second, but you've got to have one back to me as well as you're going out. So generally, direct forward, stiff ears, not so happy. Lobbed ears, both the old floppy ears, nice and relaxed. Horse is as happy as Larry, very relaxed, very easy-going, generally horse, happy as Larry with that. So I look for that inside-outside ear. I don't mind if they go, as long as that ear comes back to me just to cue in that, yes, they're there, they're ready for what I want. They haven't fully lost their focus on what they're doing at the time as they're going in. So I find that the ear movement is a nice subtle way of just checking where the horse is. It's before you've got, it's just when things are starting to go. It can be, and it can change very quickly. So it can be cut your attention, remind the horse back here, oh, yes, got you, excellent, off we go again. Done deal. Before things go any further.
If you're an equestrian coach or a horse riding instructor, or even if you aspire to be one, have a look at the free video series for horse riding instructors on the Horse Chats website. Go there now, have a look, horsechats.com. You talked earlier about breathing, and then I think you've got the release of tension through breathing. So how would you see that release of tension through the breathing?
Yeah, no, these things that are taught in a really controlled and safe environment.
Yep.
So I wouldn't go to a competition and go, oh, hang on, my horse lost. I'm just going to start implementing this stuff. And it's a bit hard to do it over a bit of a podcast, but from groundwork, using an inner circle, getting horses to step through, getting them to soften through their neck, it's transferred then into riding work. So when I'm riding, the horses are familiar with the exercises on the ground. Then they come into the riding. So if they're stopped breathing or they're holding their breath as such, or they're shallow and they're getting hot and finding the work tension, I'll go into sort of lateral work. It may be what I call to shut them down. So they might come into a small circle. I'll just ask them, give them the from the ground, what they understand is that they just need to stop.
Yep.
When they've sort of lost control of the situation, they don't stop. They just sort of keep going, slow down, slow down. When they're really responsive to it, they just get in mind, they go, oh, yeah, and I'll come back to the halt very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But this isn't something that you just go and do, oh, hang on, I'm now at a clinic, I'll go do it now. It's back and the horse understands the skill. But generally, because they know that, I can usually use this in exercise like shoulder forearm, a little bit of lateral work. Just ask them to move through their ribs. That will often be a nice cue for them to remind them as they come in. And sometimes if they're finding it very difficult. I had one the other day, for example, who went to an egg show and they had some interesting side shows that this horse hadn't seen. He's seen general side shows. He's a well-campaigned horse, but he hadn't seen these particular, and he was finding it quite challenging.
Yep.
So he came to halt. I just had his neck bent, and he was like, no, I am definitely staying here. Just allow the time. Don't just leave it and go off. Just allow the time to process. Anyway, I can't hold it any longer. Okay, I can deal with it.
Yep.
So, yeah, don't just sort of walk away. Sometimes, allow the time to happen and then reward him when he has actually taken that breath. Because you're teaching him to, like a human, not all of them are good at coping in different situations. Public speaking, for example. So we teach people strategies for them to be able to cope in those situations. We need to do the same with our horses.
Yes.
As we go along. So that's what we do, teaching them how to release their tension through their body. So, and this is the next part, releasing tension through the body. The two sort of work in together. So often when the horses get stiff through their body, stiff through their ribs, stiff through their neck, you can generally think that the breathing is also not as you want it. So they work as a bit of a partnership. So again, full circle, generally the bending will encourage the breathing and then the thinking. But if the pole is up, then you've got another indicator. So all these things, like you haven't got the ear won't flick back, they've gone rigid through the neck, they're not wanting to turn, they're holding their breath, you know that your horse is really not coping. And that's as far as it is. Before you get to bounding and rearing and running backwards, all of those very obvious disgruntled behaviours, there's all these little ones happening generally beforehand as you go in.
Yep.
So, yeah, they are the ones that I really like to use. If I can work from the groundwork, and then you can you can generally start to use your breathing, your ear movement, the control of the feet, how they're going. And we've got one more to cover, which is the responsiveness to the aid. If you can get those, hopefully you're not going down to all those other bad behaviours that you see sometimes exhibited, where there's rearing or kicking out or running sideways or, prancing, dancing sort of behaviour.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about the positive responsive? What should we be looking for if we feel like we've got the situation under control, the horse is going well? What can we be looking for there?
Yeah, these are really important because they're your indication that your horse is trying to process the information. And I come back to groundwork, I guess, with these. Things that you're going to see, I found in his face, his ears, his eyes, his lips, and his nostrils. So as I'm saying, oh, well, I'm going to be riding. But as I come around to the groundwork, as you said, the relaxed nature, and they're moving, they're not locked onto one thing and rigid. As I look back, you might be standing to lift the hand and the ear automatically responds. So the horse is nice and relaxed. You make a command, whether it's by a hand movement or a voice or a rein, and the ear flicks towards you. Fantastic. Generally, when your eyes, if they're popping, you can see the whites of the eyes, or you're wanting the horse to say, look, left or bend left, but eye is on the left side, is actually looking to the right. Like he's not really wanting to be submissive to what you're asking. So that's telling you he's not there. When the horse is actually being positive, his eye might take on a more sleepy look, or the eye, what we call the eye softens. Mm-hmm. So he's more looking at you. The eyelid relaxes, and he turns his head, his jaw towards you. Often if he's all slow, I'm not doing this, I'm holding my breath, I'm going. Once he starts to come and he's thinking, he'll lick his lips. And before he might get there, you might see the little quiver just between the lip and the nostril. That little skin there will go very fine little vibration, okay? And the horse is starting to try and come to your side of things, trying to work out what it is that you want. Mm-hmm. And that can sort of, around that nostril area, that lip area, a licking of the lips is a very good one. So if I'm asking a horse to bend his neck, turn his nose towards me, he's like, nope, I'm looking over there. I'll ask him to turn. He might move his feet. I'm like, no, you're just going to bend your neck. You might turn 3 circles, that's fine. And when he actually goes, okay, I've got my feet still, I'm going to neck, I'll roll my eyes, I'll lift my lips, and then I'll exhale, I'll breathe. And then he has to get to his neck, you allow him to take his neck back straight, and he gets his reward.
Yep.
Okay, to breathe that. So you've inflated the balloon as such in that scenario. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But all of those, that's what I say, they're positive responses to the horse that he's trying to work out what it is, and he's responding to you in a positive manner. He's deflating. And that's what we're trying to do. When he's lost control, he's got his head up, he's not breathing how he wants, he's not listening, showing with his ears, he's listening to you. We know the balloon's too big. We've got to try and deflate it.
Yep.
And come in, and they're the responses you're going to see from the horse generally that it's coming through. Those responses.
And even though, Tania, you've shown the 10 signs, we've got the list of 10 signs for people if they want to go and have a look on horsechats.com under your page, which would be Tania Harding too. You've jumped around a bit, but you have to jump around a bit when you're riding, because they're not going to just present themselves in that order. They're going to be in different orders. They are going to jump around. Yep.
It's going to be different scenarios to how your horse reacts to different things, how it's feeling on that day, how you're riding as a rider and the feel that horse is getting. And, they're there as 10. They're not in this is the format 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as I said, one on its own is fine. It might just be, he's a little hot today. It's okay. But, I do a little bit of lateral work and he's fine with it. I've done touch. No, I can handle that. It's when you're getting 3, 4, and 5, different little things coming together. So you start to think, hang on a minute. If I don't address it now, it's going to escalate. And that's what we're trying to get away from. And so it's just identifying that. So you don't end up at the point, I don't know what happened. He just went off his head to go. And that's what we don't want. We don't want people having that scenario going in. Yeah. The same as if you're going to look at a horse. I hear people going, well, and people are very good when they sell horses. One reason they have their own routine. The horses are in their own environment generally. And if you don't know what the questions are or what you're actually looking for as you're going, in some of the ways, I've seen some very lovely people go on with horses and you're like, yes, it was always cross-tied. And they get home and it doesn't, it's only used to being cross-tied and they've got a problem with it being tied singularly. Yep. So if you're just aware of it, that's all. It can make your life a lot easier and more enjoyable. And I said, you can look at it and go, okay, well, I've looked at this horse. It's a beautiful horse. It has the most brilliant bling. I wanted it for a show hack, or I want it to do this. These are some of the things it did while that person was on it. Yep, okay, there's 3 or 4. I'm willing to take that. I reckon I've got the skills to work with that. Or
Yes.
you might say, look, it's position 5 or 6 on the little list. Maybe it's the horse for me in 12 months' time with someone else doing something with it. I've got those skills. I've got the facilities. I can do that. Or maybe no, this isn't the horse for me.
And I think that's time to be realistic, isn't it? It's time to be realistic as a rider, and also to listen to your coach, because your coach should have a good idea of what you're capable of and a good eye for the horse that is going to be suitable for you.
And it's generally an objective third party to the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And generally the buyer and the seller, generally the buyer becomes emotionally involved because they've seen it and they like it or they whatever.
Yes.
But your coach is usually, an objective third party for you.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully they'll be honest and hopefully they can say, well, look, you're going to have these hassles, but yeah, we can do it. Or look, no, probably not the best for you.
Yep. There's easier horses around. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
look, there's the skills that I've talked about. They're not being able to teach. You need to teach the horses control of their feet, their positioning, the pole, all that I usually start in groundwork. It's not being put across on this podcast,
mm-hmm.
but there are many people out there who do it. If you're interested in doing it, go do your research, look for it, then get the skills into action, and then you're right, make your way through, and to enjoy your competition more.
Yes. Okay. All right. Look, I think, as I said, the skills, even though we've got the signs listed in order, they're not in order. It's the whole overview. Yeah. Look at the horse, and you can go have a checklist to go through. Is my horse doing this? But it could be showing a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and in different orders, and you might be able to fix it in a different order as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And as I said, like those sort of the first 3 sort of more the blatant or obvious indicators, where 7 and 8, 4, 7, 8 are all sort of more subtle.
Yes.
And 5, 6, and 9 are talking about what you're looking for and how you're going to do it, and also releasing the tension of the breathing and things like that. So it's a whole integrated package, if you like.
Yep.
Rather than just do number 1 and then move on to number 2.
And Tania, if people would like to talk to you about this and ask you any questions, they can leave those questions on your page at horsechats.com/Tania Harding 2. But if they'd like to contact you direct, what's your best contact details?
My best contact details are through Facebook and Messenger, Tania Harding Jerima, JIRRIMA, but generally Tania Harding will find it. PH, on Facebook. Or I really don't mind just chatting with people over the phone, which I think my number's on the Horse Chat page, I think.
Yeah, it will. We'll make sure it goes on the Horse Chats page for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be great. I'm happy to chat with people.
Okay. Look, Tania, thanks very much for your time. The information you give, hopefully it will save people, buying the wrong horse, getting themselves into a situation where their horse really is blowing up and about to burst. But, we want to catch them before they burst. We want to deflate them and just get them back so that they're under control.
Yeah, and enjoying themselves.
Oh, exactly. We enjoy them and they can enjoy themselves. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks for your time today, and hopefully we'll catch up with you again soon.
Thanks so much, Glenys.
Okay.
It's a pleasure.
Now, if you're still there, you probably know that I'm absolutely passionate about education within the horse industry. That's why I host this podcast. My other venture is Online Horse College. Have a look now at onlinehorsecollege.com, and I'll see you over there.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.